On behalf of the Association for Counselor Education and Supervision, I hope we all give him a warm ACES welcome, Greg Lavoie.
All right, thank you for that introduction. So actually, I'm not in Asheville anymore. I just moved back to California. So I'm now a Santa Cruzan. All right. So I think I'm gonna, well, good morning.
Good morning.
Delighted to be here. I'm gonna jump right in. I heard a fascinating comment at a conference in San Jose this past summer. It was sponsored by the Institute of Noetic Sciences. Anybody familiar with ions? All right. So noetic referring to the study of the human mind and human consciousness. And the comment came from a scientist at UC Santa Cruz, a fellow named Bruce Damer, who's a biomedical engineer. And I thought you would appreciate this comment of his. He said, the tools we use to heal the wounded human heart are the most important technology of the 21st century. All right? And this from a scientist, and one who lives on the flanks of Silicon Valley, which is, of course, you know, technological ground zero. So, congratulations on being at the cutting edge. And I want to use that comment as a jumping off point to share a story with you. Some years ago, there was a mini-series on television based on the Arabian Nights. And I watched that mini-series because I remember enjoying all the stories when I was growing up. And watching that mini-series gave me the feeling that we are all, especially those of us here in, if you will, human services, we are all, in a sense, descendants of Scheherazade. All right, she's the queen whose stories make up all the Arabian Nights, and I think we share her fate. And her fate is that she became, by choice, the wife of the Sultan of Persia, who had a decree that every woman he married would be killed on the morning after the wedding. Okay, a man with a serious intimacy problem. And she wanted to put a stop to this. So on the day of their wedding, she began telling the Sultan a story and stopped just short of the finish. And he agreed to let her live one more day to see how the story turned out. The next day, she finished the story and started another. And he agreed to let her live one more day to see how that story turned out. And after 1,001 stories, and of course 1,001 nights, the Sultan fell in love with Scheherazade, and the killing stopped. So, in a sense, he was healed, and the kingdom became safer. All right? So, I think this story is reminding us that the commitment to forward momentum is a life-saving virtue. And we're in trouble if we stop telling our stories. If we stop doing the life-giving thing in really any arena of our lives. If we stop giving our gifts. In fact, if we stop doing what Scheherazade's storytelling ultimately did, which is that it created love where there wasn't any. We're in trouble in the sense, I think, that Socrates meant it when he said, soul is closer to movement than fixity. Soul is closer to movement than fixity, which I take to mean loss of soul is the condition of being stuck. In any situation or any condition that's life-denying, right? That compromises our passions and, of course, our compassions, right? Stuck in deadening routines or relationships or status quos, right? Stuck in, frankly, any of the 1,001 ways that the wounded human heart can be stuck, even though the DSM only counts 300. All right, I'm being poetic, of course. And I think this story speaks to those of us in the counseling and therapeutic professions to the degree that we're in the business of helping, trying to help people's souls and spirits and psyches regain momentum. All right, starting, of course, with ourselves. Because just the mechanics of inspiring by example being what they are, for those who are in a position of leadership or stewardship, I think this much is certain. Our passion is critical to their engagement. Our students, our clients, our constituents, our families, right? I'm sure this is why when I headed off to college, my father's advice to me was don't take courses, take professors.